Hi everybody and welcome to Sampling and the Normal Distribution. This is lesson 1 and we are looking at this concept of sampling. This topic is not very long. It's a good idea for you to think about what you might know about sampling and the normal distribution. When I think of sampling food because I just love food. But the goals for today are basically thinking about how a sample can be used to provide an estimate for a particular population characteristic when it's too time consuming to survey everyone. You need to know how to generate random numbers with a table, calculator or spreadsheet, and you need to discover types of sampling that exist and choose the best type of sampling to use. Okay, so first of all, you should be thinking about some ways that data can be collected. I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of the census in Australia and a sample. You might have even heard about a census taking place in Jesus' time when Jesus was born. That's why Mary and Joseph were actually in Bethlehem. I didn't know that, but my Year 9 class told me. Brought it to my mind. So other ways we can do a census and a sample are perhaps by using a survey or a questionnaire. And you might have some other things in mind for that as well. So write them down if you know. Okay, additionally, we can also think about the types of sampling that exist. So there are 3 types you need to know about: random, systematic and stratified. Random is where each item is equally likely to be chosen. From the population. Systematic sample is where items are chosen at regular intervals. So you need to make sure you're writing these down and you learn what they mean. So for example, you might have every 6th person being chosen from a population to survey or something like that. Stratified sample is where basically the sample has layers and a sample is taken from each layer. Of the population. Okay, so for example, if your data showed 20% English, 80% Chinese, the sample would have to reflect that as well. Okay, so random numbers can help select a sample, and to be able to do that, it's quite easy in your calculator. You'll notice a little RAN button down the bottom. So down the bottom of your calculator, you'll see the decimal point. Okay, so on your calculator, you're going to press Shift decimal point equals. So I'll write that down. So Shift decimal point equals, and you just keep pressing equals, to get lots of different random numbers, and that's what you do. A table could be also used, and there's an example there of what you could do to get random numbers. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples together now. The first question is about what types of sampling you might use for these things. So on the first one it says, what type of sampling technique would you use? So the first one is the amount of time spent on Instagram by Year 12 students. Well, for that one, you would probably want to sample randomly, because otherwise you could end up having bias, okay, if you just chose everyone with phones or things like that. So you'd want that to be random. The quality of service at Gloria Jeans, that would probably need to be systematic, because you don't want to, pick a particular time slot in the day or anything like that. So it would avoid bias, but it's methodical. So it would avoid bias, but it's methodical. And third one, the types of CDs to buy for the local library. I would be having a stratified sample for that, because again, you've got different age groups, okay? So the stratified sample would ensure enough variety. Sorry, that says enough variety from each age group. Okay, so that's kind of really important. So, for example, you could have adults, children, and the elderly. Question 2. A farmer has 4 sheepdogs with the following ages. Okay, 1, 3, 5, and 2. It says a researcher wants to test 3 of these dogs for reaction times. How many possible samples of size 3 can be chosen from a group of 4 dogs? And then they want you to write them all down. Okay, so for part A, you're thinking about the number of samples. So I'm just going to write number of samples equals, you've got 4 dogs and you've got 4 options here. So you could have 4 times 3 times 2, because once the first dog's gone, there's only 3 left, then there's only 2 left, and there's only 3 spots, because he wants to test 3 of these dogs. And then on the bottom, you can have that done in 3 times 2 times 1 ways, okay? When you work that out, you get 4 ways, so the number of samples could be 4. And basically from there, we're thinking about what are they, okay? We call this unordered selection because the order doesn't matter. So that's a term you'll need to be familiar with. So the 4 samples for B, you could have 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 2, and 2, 3, 5. Okay, without any repeats. Fantastic. So that's the first section. Make sure that you, on the next section here down the bottom, just write down any summary points you can think of. You should be writing at least 3. Write down any questions you had about the lesson, and then have a go at exercise 1101. Choose your level. Thanks, everybody.